Have you ever had the experience? Oh, hold on. I'm going to preach a sermon today that's titled, Can't Keep Quiet. Can't keep quiet. Turn to your neighbor and tell him, I can't keep quiet. It's like, wait, this is church. I'm supposed to be quiet in church. No, you're not. You can say all kinds of things, nice things to me while I'm preaching. Like you said it. Preach. You can say those things, okay? Hurry up. That would be like, keep quiet. But can't keep quiet. Church, have you ever had the experience where something you did or somewhere you went as a kid, it just didn't quite hit the same when you revisited that place or did that thing as an adult? Have you ever experienced that? You did it as a kid, it was awesome. As an adult, you're like, right? Maybe it was a place that you remember going as a kid that you went back to as an adult. And you expected all those same feelings of wonder and excitement and joy to come flooding back, right? That it would feel just like it felt when you were a kid, but instead you just felt a little unfazed, right? Like the buildings weren't as big as you remember. Things weren't as magical as they seemed in your memory, right? When you were a kid, you didn't notice all the trash on the ground and all the graffiti on the buildings. You didn't notice all that, right? You didn't remember there being so many unpleasant smells. Come on, somebody. The long lines. Let me tell you, wherever there are long lines, there will be unpleasant smells. You ever notice that? It's crazy to me, but it's because people know they can do things and get away with it. Everybody's like, what is that? Ew. Right? Look for the guy who won't make eye contact. That's your guilty guy, right? But like I remember like going to water country as a kid. I went to water country as a kid, church. I absolutely loved it. Every single minute of it. I was running from slide to slide. I was body surfing in the wave pool, right? I would ride it all the way in. I get all kinds of concrete burn, on the stomach. You just like, okay? Riding the Aquazoid as many times as I could. How many of y'all like the Aquazoid? Anybody like the Aquazoid? How many of y'all like, what's water country? Okay, none of y'all. Raise your hand if you know what water country is. Okay. Raise your hand if you've ever been there. Okay, all right, so y'all know what I'm talking about. It's fine, all right? Aquazoid, that was the big one that was in the dark. Big Daddy Falls, the jet scream. Come on, somebody. I loved it. I loved it. Lazy River? Lazy River. Yes. Right? But see, now I'm just going to be real with you, church. I don't really enjoy water country like that. The slides are not as big as I remember them being in my childhood. The waves are no longer big enough for me to body surf. Okay, my body is too big. And the truth is, I'm just kind of grossed out the whole time that I'm there. You know what I mean? Because it's like everywhere is wet. Everywhere you go is wet, and I don't really know what this warm water I'm stepping in actually is. Like, is this from the pool? Is it pee? And I don't enjoy the wave pool anymore because as an adult, I now know that's where all the kids go to use the bathroom. And I know that because that's where I take my kids to use the bathroom. No, I'm kidding. It's a joke, right? But speaking of the bathroom, okay, I cannot do the bathroom at water country. Because again, right, is this liquid from the pool or is this urine that I'm stepping in? And I don't know how many men's rooms y'all ever been in, but the odds are it's pee. But water country don't hit the same as an adult like it did when I was a kid. And I hate it that it doesn't. I just want to go and have fun. I don't want to care that people pee in the pools and on the slides and that, some guy who didn't shower before he showed up and now I'm sliding down where his unwashed behind just was. Like, I just want to let loose. I want to enjoy, and I can't. And I need you to pray for me. Because I also can't not mention it to my kids, and I am ruining their childhood. But I'm sure you've had that experience before, right? You went to Disney World as a kid, and it was amazing, right? Like Mickey Mouse is walking around. Mickey Mouse is just walking. You're like, oh. Sleepy, sneezy, dopey, Doc. And surely you have not, you couldn't have passed on Gaston. Come on, somebody. Y'all know Gaston, yes? No one hits like Gaston. Matches wits like Gaston. In a spitting match, nobody spits like Gaston. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Has anybody watched Beauty and the Beast at this church? Like, y'all just leaving me hanging today. That's fine. But you see that giant golf ball thing at Epcot, you're like, oh, what is it? The fireworks at the castle. You rode the Tower of Terror. It was the craziest ride of your life. Did you go back as an adult and you're like, it's just long lines and bad smells, right? Like it's missing the magic, right? Or maybe it wasn't a theme park. Maybe it was a place that you and your family used to vacation when you were a kid. And then you take your family back in as an adult, and it's just not the same thing that you remembered. And I had this experience when Haley and I took the boys to Myrtle Beach in 2021. When I was a kid, Dirty Myrtle was my family's vacation destination. And whether it was spring break or in the summer or both, like we normally went at least once a year. And the place was amazing to me as a kid, church. All the lights at night and the cool stores and the restaurants. They had a Hard Rock Cafe and a Planet Hollywood. Like, bro, you got to be kidding me. You ever been to Planet Hollywood? Anybody? Come on. Yes. The Planet Hollywood down there was legit. I got a picture of it. Can you put the picture up? It was already up, wasn't it? Was it? Oh, come on. You own it, girl. Look at that thing. Like, that is a planet, and you go eat in it. Like, it's amazing. All right, here's a picture. Put the next one up of my family. That's me and Mom and Christy standing outside of it. Okay, a rose between two thorns. Come on, somebody. Amen. Let's go. I was 10th grade in that picture. Whew, handsome too. I don't know what happened. Just age, it's not, I don't know. But like that place was awesome. Dad was there too. He just went and took the picture. But like you walk up into, if you haven't been to this one, okay, you walk up into that globe and you're surrounded by all this cool movie and TV memorabilia. It had a giant screen in the back playing different movie trailers and scenes. It had zebra striped carpet. It felt special. Right? You walk in there, you expect Arnold Schwarzenegger would be making your burger, right? Like you're just like, ah. But he wasn't. He was not making the burger. What they did is they put Arnold Schwarzenegger in this glass case. And it's really weird. They had him trapped in there, but I got a picture with him too, if you could put that up. It was cool. Like that's so cool. Hard Rock Cafe down there, it was a pyramid. Like a legit pyramid. I don't have a picture of that. I tried to find one, but I didn't get it. Like the pyramid. The food was basic, but the building was next level, all right? And so, like, I'm telling the kids, like, when we're going down to Myrtle Beach, I'm telling the kids, they got a Planet Hollywood, they got a Hard Rock Cafe, like, there's this theme park down there, like, all these cool buildings that they'll see. And then we get there, and Planet Hollywood is gone. And I saw pictures of it being demolished, and it broke my heart too much to put that on the screen. I didn't want us to be crying in here. But it was gone. It's just a stupid steakhouse there now. It's like not even a cool one. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody's asking for another steakhouse. There are 20,000 of them down there already. But you know what there was only one of, church? There was only one overpriced Applebee's inside of an earth with Sylvester Stallone hanging from the ceiling. There's only one of them. The pyramid is gone. Hard Rock Cafe is just on a shopping strip now. I mean, that's basically what it is. The hotels that were so big and so awesome and lit up at night, they just look weathered. Not at all like I remember. And I took the boys to the hotel that we stayed at when I was a kid and pull up, and I just remember feeling unimpressed, Like, we still had a blast. I don't want you to get the wrong impression. We had a lot of fun in Myrtle Beach. I want to go back to Myrtle Beach. It was very cool. My expectations are different now. Okay, that's the difference. We had a lot of fun, but my expectations were, I was let down because all this cool stuff wasn't there. And the truth is, that experience was only mine. I was the only one disappointed with things not being how I remembered. But do you know who was filled with excitement and wonder at everything they were seeing? My kids. They're like, oh, Dad, look at that. Dad, look at that. Dad. That's so cool. The hotel is big. Dad, they have a Hard Rock Cafe. Can we eat there? I'm like, it used to be a lot cooler. Like, they didn't care. They didn't know. They were taking it in for the first time. They were incredibly impressed with everything they saw. They didn't have any memory with which to compare reality. It was new and exciting and awesome and fun. But for me, even the things that were the same didn't hit the same. And all that used to feel impressive felt insignificant. All that was wonderful, it just felt unremarkable. And everything that was so incredible, it just felt usual. And I know there can be a lot of reasons for this, right? When you're a kid, everything is awesome. It's because you're a kid. When you're an adult, you're like things aren't smaller, you're bigger. Things are not badder, I'm just older. Things are not worse. I just have to pay for it now, right? Like that's worse, okay? But as an adult, I have the blessing and curse of knowing and having experienced more, and things they lose their wonder. And what I'm trying to get at, church, is this experience that all of us have in various ways as we go through life is this experience where over time, things that used to impress us no longer faze us. Okay? Think about the sand dunes at the Outer Banks. I know you guys are Outer Banks veterans. You guys are OBXers, Like there's probably 5 license plates that are OBX with a bunch of numbers behind it. Right out in our parking lot right now. That's you guys. But I remember going to the Outer Banks as a kid, and I remember going to the sand dunes there. And just thinking, like, this is a monster of a mountain. Like, this is Mount Everest of sand. Like, this thing is huge. And I remember getting to the top, man, it felt like you could see the whole world. I remember running down the thing. Running and then tripping. Then rolling, but it just felt like forever. Felt like forever. I go there now, and I'm standing there, and it's like, it's cool. Yeah. I'm channeling, Shania Twain energy. That don't impress me much. Okay? Or like Elijah's over here, when he and I go hiking, and we get to the top of Old Rag, and like the view is so amazing for like 5 minutes. Like you get to the top, and it's like, oh, look at this. Look at this. And then about 5 minutes in, you're like, all right, you guys ready to go, or... And it's like, what? Has the mountain changed? No. Has the view changed? Is it any less awesome? No. The mountain has not changed. I have. The view is still just as awesome. I've changed. Time and familiarity has caused this amazing thing that used to impress me to no longer faze me. Now, if you're on the mountain with me, I'm going to still tell you that it's awesome because it is. And I know that it is. It's just not captivating me the way that it did when we first got to the top. Familiarity took away the fascination. And we've experienced this in many areas of our lives, church, but what I really want to focus in on today is how we can experience this when it comes to Jesus. Okay? Think about this, those of you who are followers of Christ. Think about how you felt when you first found yourself in the grips of His grace. Think about the relief that you felt as His mercy met you in your misery, the weight that was lifted when you first felt the freedom of forgiveness. Think back to the celebration when you came to salvation and experienced liberation from the sin that you were living in. Think about how you couldn't go 5 minutes without thanking God or telling somebody about Jesus. People at your job were so sick of you. They're like, bro, we get it. You found God. And you told him, you said, oh, no. I didn't find my way home all alone. I didn't change my mind overnight on my own. It wasn't my plans or my hands that would finally set me free. I didn't find God. He found me. Amen. Come on, somebody. Ben Fuller, y'all need to be listening to his music if you're not already. My goodness, it'll set you free. Well, Jesus will set you free, but he'll get you to Jesus, okay? But like you couldn't keep quiet. Because you were so excited, you were so enamored with Jesus and so passionately in love with Him and devoted to Him, and you wanted everyone to know it. Not because you were trying to be pushy or judgmental or the religious dude. You just wanted so desperately for everyone to experience Jesus the way that you had. Okay, now, think about what things are like today. And this may not be the case for all of us, but maybe for some of us. All that used to impress us about Jesus no longer really phases us. Come on, we used to never miss a chance to come to church. And now we come when it's convenient. We couldn't read enough of the Bible, man. We were consuming every sermon on every podcast from every church we could think of. We were passionate in prayer. We were singing every song during the service, hands raised, voice raised, ugly crying in front of God and everybody. Because we were so grateful for what God had given. But now what used to impress us doesn't really faze us. And we don't really talk about Jesus as much anymore. We don't get on folks' nerves at work like we used to. And for some, maybe people wouldn't even know we still follow Jesus. And so Jesus has become a bit common, and we have become a bit quiet. And why does this happen? Has Jesus changed? No. Hebrews tells us he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. Is he any less awesome or amazing or wonderful or powerful or present or kind? No. And I'm not even saying the problem is always us, right? Like we've fallen into sin or that we're backslidden. That can sometimes be the case, but it's not always the case. You know what I think happens to many of us? Life. I think life happens. And we get caught up in everything happening to us and around us that we take our emphasis off Jesus. See, what happens is over time, he's not the big thing. He's not the new thing. He's not the dominant thing in our lives anymore. And so we still want him in our lives. We still do love him and we want to follow him. But see, now the next big thing or the next new thing or dominant thing in life is our job. Or for some of us, it's our kids. And so now they're the things that you talk about. They're the things that you're annoying your coworkers about. Okay, you bragging about your son's batting average. Talking about my son, he bats 1,000. He plays T-ball. Every kid hits a home run, dude. Like, what are we talking about? If you bat last in T-ball, you get a grand slam every time. My son, he had 4 grand slams a day. Let's go. It's like, whoa, all right. But for real, church, people talk about the things they care about. That being said, how often does Jesus show up in our conversation? Now, you might say, well, I get it, T-Steele, but like I've been following Jesus a while. Like, it ain't that I love him no less. You know, our love is it's comfortable. I don't feel the need to talk about him all the time or tell everyone everything like I used to. I've been with Jesus for a while. Everybody knows. All right, but check it. I hear you, but just check this out. A couple months ago, I'm at Grandmom's house. Grandmom is Miss Martha, the OG of this church, okay? Now, she's been following Jesus for longer than all of us have been alive. And here's what she says to me. Listen to what Grandmom says to me. I just have to tell people about Jesus. I just love him. He's just been so good to me. And she will tell anyone, she don't care. She does not care. You ain't got to like it, but you finna hear it. The cashier at Food Lion, the home repairman who shows up at her house, both of them finna hear about Jesus. Why? Because she loves him. Because he's been so good to her. She can't keep quiet. Jesus shows up in most all of her conversations because we talk about the things we care about. But maybe for us, church, things have become a bit common and comfortable, and we've become a bit quiet. But see, then you have this experience, okay? These are great. These moments where you're having a conversation with someone and Jesus comes up and you start talking to them about Jesus and you start recounting all the things that he's done for you and how good he's been to you in your life and how he pulled you up out of that pit, how he saved you from sin, delivered you from death, healed your heart, granted you grace, changed your life with his unfailing love, traded your misery for his mercy and gave you a glimpse of his majesty. And here's what happens, churches, is as you start talking about him, you start to feel that fire begin to burn a little hotter, right? And the more you talk about him, the more you want to be with him. And once again, you begin to awaken the wonder that you used to have for your Savior, right? Or maybe you're around someone else who's talking about Jesus, and their hunger and their fire and their passion begins to awaken it again in your soul as well. And so a spark from their fire begins to catch on you, and then you start to go in as well, talking about Jesus and how good he is and how good he's been in your life, how hope has become a rope by which you are forever tethered to your Savior. And the more you talk about him, the more enamored you become with him once again. You've been there. I'm sure of it. But I think one of the challenges that we face in life is that we can become so fixated on the next thing coming at us that we lose focus on everything Jesus has done for us. And I'm telling you, your fire will follow your focus and your fascination. Your passion will follow your attention. It will. And when I say passion, I mean more than feelings, okay? I mean our devotion, our discipline, what we force ourselves to do even when we don't feel like it, because we're passionate about the purpose that it has in our lives. And I just wonder for those of us in here who might be brave enough to confess that we don't have the same passion that we once did for Jesus. My question is, if you don't have the passion, how much is he getting of your attention? If you don't have the passion, how much is he getting of your attention? Or are you so fixated on the next thing coming at you that you've lost focus on everything he's done for you, how good he's been to you? And as you've lost that focus, maybe he's become a bit familiar, right? Things like salvation, provision, protection, mercy, grace, life in Jesus' kingdom. It's all just become a bit common. They're words. And so we become a bit quiet. It's not that we don't care. We're just quiet. And I want us to look at a text from Scripture today where a man's encounter with Jesus can serve as an example to us. This is a guy who could not keep quiet about Jesus even when Jesus told him to be quiet about Jesus. And I'm aware it's ironic saying that a guy who disobeyed Jesus can serve as an example to us. But I just want you to hang in with me because it's going to make sense. Mark chapter 1, beginning in verse 40. It says that a man with leprosy came and knelt in front of Jesus, begging to be healed. If you are willing, you can heal me and make me clean. Okay? Now, to understand the desperation of this man's situation, we need to understand not only what leprosy was, but the stipulations that surrounded anyone who was afflicted with it. And if you've been coming to Elevate for a while, you've heard me teach through what leprosy is and all this stuff before. But for those of you who haven't, commentators note that the word leprosy is used in biblical times to designate a wide variety of serious skin diseases. Scribes counted as many as 72 different afflictions that were defined as leprosy. But commentator James Edwards helps us understand the far-reaching devastation brought on by leprosy when he writes this. He says, lepers were victims of far more than just the disease itself. And this is because the disease robbed them not only of their health, right? It robbed them of their health, but the sentence imposed on them as a consequence of having leprosy robbed them of their name, occupation, habits, family, fellowship, and worshiping community. They lost everything when they came down with leprosy. And so to ensure against contact with society, lepers were required to make their appearance as off-putting as possible. It was contagious, and so they didn't want you, like sneaking in somewhere and then the disease continued to spread. And so they were required to make themselves not look awesome. Leviticus 13 tells us that those who suffer from a serious skin disease must tear their clothing and leave their hair uncombed. They must cover their mouth and call out, unclean, unclean. As long as the serious disease lasts, they will be ceremonially unclean, meaning they can't go into worship. There's various things they could not do. And they must live in isolation in their place outside the camp. Now I realize this sounds tough, but we understand the need for it. Right? The idea is to protect the people who don't have leprosy. Talking about an ancient civilization here, there's no access to modern medicine and all that we know about how things spread and are transmitted. But church, like people do, these things that were meant for protection then become opportunities for abuse. And so what would happen is if you were a leper in Jesus' day, there was often times where people would throw stones at lepers when they were passing by to ensure that the lepers stayed away from them. You'd see them outside of the city, and people would have rocks to throw at them to make sure they didn't get too close. There's all kinds of hardship, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And so I'm bringing all this up to highlight just how desperate this man is as he falls at the feet of Jesus, begging for a healing and to be cleansed. This man has suffered severely. Not only the pain and ravages that leprosy would have inflicted physically, but everything he'd have lost in his life additionally. The man lost his family, lost his home, lost his job, lost his ability to worship God in the temple. He's been sick and suffering, was not able to experience the comforting embrace of someone caring for him. He had not been touched by another human being for as long as he's had this disease. Jewish historian Josephus correctly describes lepers when he wrote that they were, in effect, dead persons. I mean, by all accounts, this man was a dead man. He's the walking dead. He's a zombie. Now, with all that being said, this man is taking an enormous risk running up to Jesus. Right, as I said, people would throw stones at them to keep them away. This is a potentially dangerous move for him. But church, come on. What's he got to lose? What's he got to lose? He's already treated and living as if he were dead. And so Mark tells us that he knelt in front of Jesus, begging to be healed. And he says, if you are willing, you can heal me and make me clean. And so clearly this man has heard about Jesus. He's heard about the miracles Jesus has performed, the people that he's healed, the demons he's delivered people from. And so, church, he has full-on faith in Jesus' ability to heal him as well. The only thing he questions is whether or not Jesus is willing. And I thought it's so true what I read one commentator write regarding this. He wrote that it is sometimes easier to believe in God's power than in his mercy. And isn't that so true? Come on. Isn't that where many of us find ourselves when we go to God in prayer over something? I know there's nobody in here who doubts God's ability. We're just unsure of his mercy. We don't doubt if he can. We just wonder if he will. And that's where this man with leprosy finds himself. He believes in Jesus' power. He's just not sure if Jesus is merciful or not. Because, this is a man who is rejected by everyone, everywhere else. What reason does he have to believe that Jesus is actually going to be any different? Right? In his mind, why wouldn't Jesus reject him just like all the other rabbis and all the other religious leaders did? Why wouldn't Jesus reject him, just like the man's family and friends were forced to? He is completely outcast. He's utterly abandoned, forsaken, refused, and shunned. He has got nothing and no reason to believe that Jesus would want anything to do with him more than anyone else. We come to this passage knowing how the story ends. This man did not. We know Jesus' character. We've been introduced to it. This man does not. And so he goes to Jesus because he knows that he's powerful, but the question is, will he be merciful? And maybe there's some of you here this morning who feel a lot like this leper. You feel like the outcast. Like for whatever reason or whatever the situations or circumstances, life has left you feeling abandoned, forsaken, unloved, unwanted, and undesirable. Maybe the sins of your past or shames in your present have left you feeling like you're completely unworthy and undeserving of love and kindness and grace. And you've heard about Jesus. You've heard people talk about how powerful and mighty and wonderful he is. You've heard about his power. You're just a bit unsure of his mercy. You know that he's powerful to save you. You're just not convinced that he will, or that he really wants to, or wants you. You've been shunned and refused and rejected by everyone else, and you wonder, why would Jesus be any different? Maybe you even feel as though people who claim to be Jesus' people, right? People in the church have rejected you. His followers have rejected you. So you think, why would he be any different? Okay? Well, if that's you, I pray that what Jesus does next will show you just how different Jesus actually is. And Mark tells us that moved with compassion. Jesus reached out and touched him. What a moment this really is. Like, don't just rush through this moment and miss the beauty of it. All the emotion, right? Let's not allow what should impress us not to faze us. Instead, church, let's process this carefully and intentionally. Mark says that Jesus was moved with compassion. And I love this because what we see here, what we witness is that Jesus' compassion compelled him to action. Now, the word compassion, it comes from Latin roots. It's the word compati. It's two words, com, which means with, and pati, which means to suffer. The word literally means to suffer with. And so to have compassion isn't just to feel sorry for someone. Oh, I feel so bad for you. Compassion is to enter into their suffering and to be moved to share in it emotionally or practically, right? It's an active word, to suffer with which makes Jesus' compassion, it's not just an emotion. It's a call to action. His compassion compelled him to action. It's something we see over and over again in the Gospels. Matthew 14:14, it says, when Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed their sick. Matthew 9, it says, when he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Matthew 20, Jesus has an encounter with two blind men. And Matthew says Jesus had compassion on them and touched their eyes. And immediately they received their sight and followed him. Jesus' compassion, his willingness to suffer with others, to enter their suffering and then do something about it, is what we witness on display with this leper in Mark chapter 1. Which paints a beautiful picture of what Jesus' overall mission in the gospel of his life is, that he enters into our suffering, church, and he does something about it. He enters our suffering that sin and death has brought us. He entered into it and he did something about it. But I just imagine Jesus in this moment. I imagine him looking at this man who's kneeling at his feet, seeing the leprosy on his skin. And then, instead of being repulsed, instead of reacting in fear or disgust, like everyone else would have, Jesus pauses to put himself in the man's place. How must it feel not only to suffer the physical pain of a devastating affliction, but also the emotional pain of no longer being able to live with everyone you love? The emotional pain that comes with no longer being treated like a human. The pain that comes from no longer being able to be a part of society or contribute to the community. No longer being able to do the things you love with the people you love. Everything you've devoted your life to is ripped away from you. And being cut off from God as well. And being convinced that the reason this happened to you is because of you. It's because you sinned, or you somehow brought this on yourself, and now God is judging you. And that was the common belief. In the Old Testament, leprosy was considered a form of divine punishment against a person. And Jesus, he enters into this in compassion, suffering with, putting himself in this man's place. And as the man is kneeling down, Church, I just imagine him kneeling down, looking at the dirt, probably feeling unworthy, unwanted. Doesn't feel worthy to look up, to make eye contact with the one he's actually asking help of, face down, looking at the dirt, hoping against hope that just maybe this Jesus might be different from everyone else. I imagine his tears staining the dirt beneath his tired face, coming from swollen eyes. And then, church, the moment that he can hardly catch his breath, he gasps in disbelief, along with everyone else standing around that day, as this man feels something he hasn't felt in years. A hand gently laying hold of his shoulder. Something that you and I take for granted. Just somebody putting a hand on our shoulder was a profound act of grace. A simple touch that was so incredibly significant. And I just imagine this man like realizing what's happening, looking up with blurry vision as he's looking through tear-filled eyes. He locks eyes with the kindest eyes he's ever seen. And I just imagine Jesus, knowing smile on his face, says the words that this man was hoping against hope that he might just hear. I am willing. Be healed. Imagine that moment, Jesus kneeling down, hand out. I am willing. Be healed. Whew. Come on now. Can you imagine? I just picture the man sobbing as relief washes over his soul. As everything that he had suffered was about to be over. All that he'd lost was about to be restored. Because Jesus had compassion that moved him to action. Because Jesus has the willingness to heal him of his sickness. Because Jesus loved him, where everyone else loathed him. Because Jesus was willing to reach somebody that everyone else rejected. Because not only did Jesus have the might, but because he had the mercy. Because this is key, church. Jesus being mighty, that's not going to help the man apart from Jesus' mercy. But Jesus is just as merciful as he is mighty. He is just as compassionate as he is omnipotent. Just as sensitive as he is strong. And he looks at this man and moved with the compassion. He reaches out and restores. What I want to say to you today is that this is the same Jesus that we are gathered here to worship today. If you're here and you're not a follower of Jesus, you're aware of his might but unsure of his mercy towards you, this is the same Jesus. The same Jesus who is willing to reach out and restore you today as well. Whatever sin you're in, baggage you brought, shame you're shouldering. Listen, if everyone else has rejected you, Jesus is reaching out to you. And if you've been wondering if he's willing to love you, save you, help you, heal you, the answer is on the screen in front of you. He is willing. He's willing to heal you of a sickness more severe than leprosy. He's willing to heal you of sin and the guilt and shame and shackles that come along with it. He's willing. Now, here's the cool thing, church. You know what I think's happening right now? And if I'm wrong, just go with me. But you know what I think's happening right now? Okay? Is that there's some of you here, you've been following Jesus for a while, right? But what used to impress you no longer really phases you, right? Things have gotten a little comfortable and a bit common, and you've gotten quiet. But see, what's been happening is as we've been going through this text today, and even now, you are beginning to feel that fire once again lighting up inside of you. Come on, as we're talking about Jesus and you're being reminded of just how incredible, wonderful, amazing, loving, kind, caring, and generous Jesus is. Hopefully, prayerfully, that love is being reawakened, right? You're being reminded of all the reasons that you have to rejoice, that you can call yourself a follower of the Lord Jesus Christ. Because there was a time in your life where you were lost just like this leper, where you were a dead man walking, dead in your trespasses and sins, just like this leper was considered a dead man walking. And just like this leper, you came to Jesus in your desperation, knowing that he was powerful, but hoping that he'd be merciful. And you're being reminded of the moment where in his mercy, he reached out to you, healed you, saved you, freed you, redeemed you, rescued you, where he delivered you from death, gave you everlasting life, gave you freedom and the keys to his kingdom, where he took all that hurt and gave you hope, brought life where there was only loss, and replaced sin and sickness with salvation and celebration. And church, I'm telling you that when you start thinking about it, I'm telling you that fire begins to burn a bit brighter until you can't help but erupt in praise because of the countless ways that Jesus has been gracious to you. When we come back to the realization that he ain't common, he's king. This isn't mundane. This is mercy. This is majesty. This is favor, unfathomable, and grace, unimaginable, and love, uncontainable. When you wake up in the morning, Monday morning, and you got bad breath and sleep in your eyes, but you march downstairs into your kitchen to have your prayer time with Jesus, there ain't a thing mundane about it. You are in conversation with the King of creation. What are we talking about? I don't feel like praying. Whether you like him or not, he's the president right now, I don't care. My point is this. If the president of the United States calls you up, you're like, no, I don't really feel like talking. Kind of sleepy, Mr. President. Ain't no way in this world. But my gosh, we treat the King of creation as though he's common. There's nothing mundane about it. This is treasure. This is treasure. We talked about a couple weeks ago, man, that you gladly give up everything else in order to take hold of. Thankful that his grace has already taken hold of me. Come on, this is Jesus. This is Jesus whom we're blessed to know and serve and love and be loved by. How could we ever treat him as common or get to a place where Jesus doesn't really faze us or inspire jaw-dropping awe and wonder within us? He's Jesus. Well, it don't impress me much. Oh my goodness. But it happens. And it happens when we lose sight of just how lost we were without him. It happens when we lose sight of just how good he's been to us and how undeserving we are. It happens when the cares of our life crowd out our view of the cross where Jesus gave his life. It happens when life's frustrations and obligations block our view of Jesus' resurrection. It happens whenever the next thing coming at us causes us to forget everything Jesus has done for us. See, when we find ourselves becoming a bit bored with Jesus and things becoming a bit common, we find ourselves unfazed, we need to go back. We need to remember when we were in the position of the leper And remember the compassion and the love and action that we ourselves have experienced because of the profound love and goodness of Jesus. And so Mark tells us, he says, instantly. Everybody say instantly. Come on, somebody. Instantly, the leprosy disappeared and the man was healed. We get hung up on that word instantly. Be like, God don't work instantly in my life. Well, this guy was a leper for a long time, homie. It's not like he a moment of suffering the first time he prays, here he goes. This man suffered for years. But the power of Jesus is that instantly, in this moment, the leprosy disappeared, the man was healed. Here's the curious part, right? This is my first closing. Look at what happens next. It says, then Jesus sent, I didn't preach last week, okay? So Jesus sent him on his way with a stern warning. Listen to what Jesus, don't tell anyone about this. Instead, here's what he says. Now, I don't think he yelled at him. He said, hey, look, don't tell anybody about this. Okay, my guy, let's keep this between you and me. Instead, go to the priest and let him examine you. Take along the offering required for the law of Moses for those who have been healed of leprosy. And this is going to be a public testimony you've been cleansed, right? That's what was required in order for them to enter back into life as normal. Now, you and I sit here, we're like, why in the world would Jesus not want the man to tell anybody? There's a lot of theories as to why. For time's sake, I can't get into all of them today. But what I want to end on is what the man actually did. Mark says, but the man went out and spread the word, proclaiming to everyone what had happened. Jesus is like, all right, look, guy, don't tell anyone. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. You ain't going to believe this. Woo! Jesus like, man went out and told everybody what had happened. And as a result, large crowds soon surrounded Jesus, and he couldn't publicly enter a town anywhere. He had to stay out in secluded places. But people from everywhere kept coming to him. This is Mark chapter 1, bro. Like, this is the beginning of things. He couldn't go into town anywhere. Because this guy, y'all ain't finna believe me. Woo. Telling everyone. Everyone. Now, to be clear, Jesus told the man to be quiet, not tell anyone. What did he do? Oh, he told everybody. Oh, he told everybody. Now, again, Jesus had his reasons. A lot of speculations as to why. One was that, what we witnessed happened. Jesus didn't want all this press and publicity yet. Others believe that Jesus didn't want people coming to him simply to be healed of sicknesses and diseases and the like, right? He had more intentions just than being a miracle worker. He came to be the Messiah. But regardless of the reasons, the man told everybody what Jesus did. And as we're now aware of what exactly the man was delivered from, church, like, it makes sense. This dude is so happy and overjoyed. Jesus has given him his life back. Like, this is basically a resurrection, just not in the literal sense. But this man was as good as dead, and now he's alive again. And not only that, but as leprosy was believed to be a form of divine punishment, right? It was also believed that it could only be cured by God. Now follow me on this. It was believed it could only be cured by God. And Jesus just cured it. So there's a lot going on underneath the surface and under what's obvious here. Imagine, here, this is a man who has authority over diseases, demons, and divine punishment. Is it possible? Could it be that he is God? Well, Jesus will go on to make that point in the beginning of Mark chapter 2. If we had a Sunday night service, I would preach that one tonight because that thing is so good. Guy gets lowered through the roof, and Jesus says, my son, your sins are forgiven. Religious people, they're like, man, who is this guy talking about he can forgive sins? Only God can forgive sins. And Jesus says, which is harder to say to a paralyzed man, get up and walk, or your sins are forgiven? But to show you that the Son of Man has authority to forgive sins, get up and get out of here. Man got up and left. Anybody in here who can just say to a paralyzed dude, get up, and it happened? In your power? No. Like both things are impossible. Only God can do either one. Jesus is like, all right, get up, get going, bro. I got you. Showing, demonstrating, yep. This is God. Now I don't have to have a Sunday night service. You're welcome. But see, the man couldn't keep quiet. He couldn't keep quiet. And as Warren Wiersbe, he writes this incredibly convicting line about this story. He writes this. He says, Jesus told this man to keep quiet, and yet he told everybody. Jesus commands us to tell everybody, and we keep quiet. Ouch. Here's the deal, church, and here's where we're going to end today. This is my final closing. We can't keep quiet when we remember all God has provided. You can't. It's like the Sons of Sunday, right? My soul comes to life when I testify. That's how that song opens. My soul comes to life when I testify. Yes, it does. Like, bro, when you really reflect on all God has provided, just how good he is, you can't keep quiet. And if I find that I am, maybe I can just consider that maybe the reason is because I lost sight of God's goodness and grace that I've experienced in my life. If I find I can go long periods of time without talking to Jesus or about Jesus, maybe it's because I'm so fixated on the next thing that I have lost sight and focus of everything that Jesus has done for me. Because there's no way, can't keep quiet when I remember what God has provided. When I remember the pit that he pulled me out of. When I remember the ruins that he's restored, the suffering that he's seen me through, the death he delivered me from, the life and the love that he's given me. When I remember his strength that saw me through the storm, his presence that gave me peace in the midst of problems and pain. Just do it, church. Just reflect on what he's provided. I'm telling you, you'll have to try to be quiet. It'll take effort. Come on, you think about how good he is and how much you love him. How can you keep quiet? Like, we'll be so quick to share about a show. You gotta see this, dude. Oh. We'll tell everybody about how cool Planet Hollywood is. Because you love something, you talk about it. When you're excited about something, you talk about it. When you've experienced something, you can't wait to tell folks. And you'll tell someone, you'll tell anyone who will listen. And maybe, church, if we're quiet, we've lost sight of what God has provided. Okay? Now listen, this sermon is not against personality types, okay? Because I feel all the introverts in the room feeling attacked right now. Okay? I'm with you, bro. I'm introverted too. And so I don't mean if you're a quiet person. That's not what I'm talking about. I just mean if you're quiet in the sense that you don't really talk about Jesus like you used to, right? That you may not talk to Jesus like you used to. When what used to impress you no longer phases you, maybe it's because you lost sight a bit of just how good he's been to you. And I know, man, I've been there, church. I still am there sometimes. I'll be so fixated on the next thing, I lose sight of everything Jesus has done. And then what happens is I notice that my attitude and my actions and my conversations start to look a lot different and sound different. Where there used to be wonder, there's not as much anymore. But when I come back to Jesus, whether it's through his word or a sermon or a song or a beautiful sunset, whatever it is, being in awe of his creation, a conversation with some of you, however he chooses to grab me, he does it. And then the wonder reawakens and I'm reminded, oh yeah, you're amazing. And I can no longer keep quiet when I remember what he's provided. I have to worship. I have to pray. I have to praise. I can't keep quiet, can't sit silent when I remember what he's provided. And so my prayer today is that Jesus, church, what I pray is that he would reignite a fire in us. I pray that he would reawaken the wonder in us. Man, I pray that we would leave here today reminded of our rescue, fully aware of just how amazing Jesus is. I pray every last one of us would be fired up and fed up with a faith that is silent or quiet. That we would be inspired to do as Peter tells us and always be ready to give people for the reason, for the hope that we have. That our love would make us loud when it comes to living out our faith in Jesus. I pray that we wouldn't allow the next thing to cause us to forget everything that Jesus has done for us and provided to us. But rather that we live like this leper went on to after he experienced Jesus' mercy and healing and restoration. That we would say, in light of all God has provided, there is no way I can't keep quiet. Amen.